I should be live. Hello? Can you hear me? Well. Well, mate, let me have some water before we get into this. Before we get into this. Before we get into this. What's going on? Oh my god, I had my own streamer in the background. What a start, right? What a start to a stream. Me echoing myself. Echo Racky's back. How we all doing? Welcome, Infinity Loop. So developers have put out a brand new trailer interview. Apparently there's a bunch of information. I started to watch it, but then I was like, no, I'm going to wait to watch it with stream. So I saw the start of it. There's definitely new concept art and all that type of stuff in there. I'm really interested to see what they've got to do, because this is the big info dump they promised last week when they put out the CGI trailer. Okay? So let's jump in, and we're just gonna go in raw, right? Right? Solid Start Easy pre-watched it all. No, mate, I'm not like that. I was gonna watch it and do like a full breakdown separately, but I want to do it with you guys. I like to watch it with you knobs. Right, let's do it. Spoilers, what a bastard. Dawn lives, there's a spoiler, and Horus dies. There's another spoiler, right? Horus turns a heretic. Who would have thought it? What I missed, mate? Nothing yet. That is the wrong window. We're at the right window. Everyone say hello to YouTube. Of course, this is going on YouTube. I'm not watching with you. Well, leave hacks, right? No one likes you anyway. Right, let's start this. Let's go. Makes 26 minutes.
We've taken it so much further with this game.
There is war everywhere.
War.
You're not fighting on one planet.
I will be pausing this at certain bits as well if I see something. So don't be complaining when I pause the stream. All right? Do not complain.
You're fighting on many planets.
That's huge even for Total War scale.
We've seen all this footage, the trailer, yeah. This is not new, still amazing, but nothing new yet. Unpause immediately, how dare you? Stop pausing, trying to watch. Can you mute the guy at the bottom left?
Welcome to Total War Warhammer 40,000 Developer Roundtable. I'm Nastya, Senior Community Manager on Total War.
And I'm Josh, Head of Player Engagement on Total War.
Today, we are joined by some of our development team to give you the very first glimpse into what Total War Warhammer 40,000 will bring.
I hope we get some cool stuff.
You've seen the trailer by now, and today we're going to be here giving you the broad strokes of what you can expect from our next title. So before we begin, let's get some introductions out of the way. Dave, care to kick us off?
I'm Valrak, nice to meet you. I am the main face of Warhammer 40,000, the main influencer for those people who are new to the channel. Without me, none of this would be possible, right? I got Space Marine 2 made, which basically fell down like dominoes, and got Dawn of War 4 and Total War 40k made. But that's another story for another day. Let's go.
Hello, I'm Dave Petrie. I'm the product owner for Battles on Total War, and I'm going to try and spend this interview not hogging all the time talking about orcs.
Hi, I'm Ian Roxburgh. I'm the Principal Creative Director.
Hi, I'm Simon Mann. I'm a lead designer, primarily focused on the campaign gameplay.
So this game has been something our fans have been waiting for a long time. So how does it feel to finally reveal it?
Oh, it's been brilliant. We've been working on the game for such a while. To finally be
about 4 years,
able
I've
to come
heard.
out and talk about it with our fans is really great.
About 4 years.
There's so much enthusiasm for this setting within the team. You just walk around the office and everyone's painting minis and creating armies and playing the game, and it's such a great atmosphere and so much excitement and passion for.
Hang on, were those beast snaggers converted? Oh, were they? Was that? I'm sorry, not beast snaggers. Were those orc AOS models converted? Sorry, I need to go back. I need to go back and see this, because this is serious business. Were they?
And creating armies and playing the game and.
No. Sorry, the beast snaggers. My bad, mate. I thought he was playing with converted AOS models. That would have been funner if that was the case.
It's such a great atmosphere and so much excitement and passion for this setting. It's really nice to be able to actually talk about it openly for the first time.
Not one L-shaped terrain I can see, mate. These guys are already winning. I don't see any L-shaped terrain at all. Mate, we're in the end game now, all right? Not one piece of L-shaped terrain.
So when you sat down with that massive list of every possible future Total War title, what was it that encouraged you to settle on Total War Warhammer 40,000 as our next adventure?
Well, a number of things, really. I mean, first of all, this setting is just made for a Total War
there's none of
game.
them.
And having done the fantasy trilogy with Games Workshop, we've formed a really good relationship with them over the years. And just that passion and the idea that we wanted to bring Total War to the stars, everything just aligned, and it's like, it's pretty much a no-brainer. This is just the perfect project to do next. So, yeah, and we're really excited about it.
The setting is unlike anything we did before and explored before. So what was the vision that was guiding your design approach?
Okay, so this is going to be interesting now, because this is what everyone's complaining about.
There is no peace amongst the stars, and that's the guiding principle for everything we do. There's only war in this game. It's like there's the scars of previous wars for thousands of years. There's ongoing war wherever you go. It's all around you, and you'll leave scars of the wars you're engaged in for future generations. So it's all about that. But it's also about how you engage with the game and how your faction, the choices you make, the decisions you make, even the kind of units you fight and how they fight. You can design them. There's a level of customization.
Mate, first things first, that guy's models on his desk. Mate, that's where my eyes are drawn to. Anime on the desk. Mate, he's working on the orc stuff, the orc animations, I can see. The Space Marine is 100% David Harbour. Do you think? I think it could be. I think it could be.
In the game where you can define the way.
I was thinking that that David Harbour guy, though, he may be voicing Calgar. Yeah, mate, enhance all the code. Enhance all the code. It looks kind of nice. Again, I'd like to see it like in the game more properly. Well, we've seen bits of it in the game, but Bad Moon's confirmed at least.
You fight your war the way you choose to, and the way you define
That's the
your
CGI
stories,
version of
and
it.
how that internal narrative develops throughout your experience with the game.
Well, you've just touched on them there, but the factions. So this is a setting with a massive, rich, diverse cast of factions and characters and settings. How did you go about settling on Space Marines, Astra Militarum, Orcs, and Eldari as our
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Why those four?
I think one thing we wanted to do was seize the opportunity to make some really cool asymmetric factions.
Why
I think
not
the
Chaos?
Warhammer 40,000, certainly the tabletop and the universe itself, offer us a lot of opportunities to bring asymmetry between these factions. They're all very different, right? If you look around this room and all the different kind of 4 factions you see around you, they're all going to play and feel very different to one another. That obviously meant we couldn't do all of them at once, right? We had to pick just a limited number because we really wanted to put the effort in to make each one very special.
Again, I'm just going to say this right now, okay? Don't worry, I'm going to be doing another stream after this. This is just an early stream. Mate, I'm just going to say this right now. For those people in the back, this game is going to be very, very much monetized. From what I've seen with past Total War products, I'm just going off experience here. This is going to be a very, very monetized game in terms of DLC. With the amount of DLC you can add, especially for Total War, 40k, there's so much of it, mate. Like, chapters, factions, my head hurts thinking how they can monetize this. I think this is going to be a big, big one, personally. Warhammer Heresy, mate, thanks for the gift.
We decided to start with the Space Marines. For us, we think they're kind of one of the most important factions for our telling
the good guys
of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. They are this elite troops. They are kind of scions of the Emperor. Their goal is to defend humanity and protect it from threats both within and without.
Oh, that's new. Model target visuals. All right. I haven't seen that before. That is new. Interesting that it's second company as well in the concept art, not third company, that we saw on the trailer. So, again, this is concept art. They probably changed this around. But Gold Trim is second company. We all know the company captain of second company now is Titus. Is Titus going to be in this game? I highly doubt it, since he is a Saber/Focus interactive product with Space Marine. So, yeah. That's David Harbour. Mate, yeah, mate, that's what a lot of people are saying. That's David Harbour. Mark 8 Collar Primaris. That is a pretty good... No, yeah. Yeah, the collar there, that's a bit different. That is a bit different.
But they're very limited, right? There's not lots of them. So when you're playing as...
Oh, here we go. Face variants. So Gravis confirmed, of course. Well, we knew Gravis is going to be in the game anyway. But more stuff. Captain in Gravis armor, approved aggressor base. So this is approved to be in the game then. That's what it says here.
You're not fielding tens of thousands of troops, right? You're fielding maybe kind of 100, 200 troops.
Okay.
But each one of those is worth 100 of any enemy. So they're really fun to play, and you're not controlling lots of units. So there's this kind of gameplay that feeds into that. We also really wanted to bring a faction that feels very Total War. We decided to go with the Astra Militarum because they are billions of men and women. Once again, they're all kind of part of the Imperium of Man. They're trying to defend humanity from the Xenos threat.
Oh shit, Kassakin? Nice. I'll take it.
But there are lots of them, right? Like, they are massed forces, regiments, there is artillery, there is front
Rogo Dawn tanks, we saw those in the trailers, with the CGI trailers, so we know they're coming.
lines. It's something you'd see as a very military faction, right? Even down to their industrial complex, where they're building industry on planets and developing them in order
that
to
sounds interesting.
kind of fuel the machine and fund the development of more like tanks and infantry. So they kind of come in as a really nice kind of contrast to that, and a faction that I think a lot of more traditional Total War players will really vibe with, because it's got a lot of that kind of heraldry to it, as it were. I think the next faction that we chose to do was the Orcs. The Orcs are a really big part.
I'm excited
of
for the
universe,
Orcs as well.
but
I'll be
they're the
honest with
enemy,
you.
right? We needed someone for the kind of Imperium to be battling against. And the Orcs, they are a massed green tide of kind of chaos and energy that's charging across a battlefield,
cool.
armed with metal sticks and axes and whatever they can jerry-rig together. Rocket launchers on sticks, but also like vehicles, right, which they've repurposed from Imperial scrap. Right, they're literally deconstructing the Imperium to build their own kind of war machines, as it were.
In wagons and stuff?
They offer
Let's
this
go.
kind of beautiful energy to the more kind of military regimented side that you get with the Imperium. Lastly, we chose to do the Eldari. We really wanted to kind of push the boat out a little bit and sort of really push what it means to be a faction within a Total War game, right? Like, they play totally differently to anything I think we've ever done in the past, right? I don't think we've done anything quite like this. They aren't a faction which is built for kind of massed combat, right? Like, it's not big armies fighting one another. Every loss to the Eldari doesn't get returned, right? Their souls are being taken away by the Chaos Gods. Like, they are literally kind of fighting.
Whoa. One Chaos God. Slaanesh. It's all Slaanesh's fault, right? Technically, it's the Eldar's fault for being absolute degenerates and birthing another Chaos God. Let's just blame everything on the Eldar. Maybe the Tau, because they deserve it as well some way.
To death to try and protect the universe and the galaxy itself. So you're not fighting, once again, as say in this kind of frontline style aspects. You're using the webways and you're using your kind of stealth
like an
and
Eldar
your
planet,
advanced
then?
technology, right, which none of the other factions have available to them, to actually kind of achieve your goals, right? And your goals aren't always just conquest, right? Your goals may actually be just kind of don't allow this awful thing to happen. Stop this calamity that could be occurring to the galaxy. Like, everyone else is still trying to kill you while you're trying to do that, but you know what your mission is and what you need to achieve, and you approach it with kind of grim determination.
So how did that affect the design approach?
So I think the main thing is when we took the kind of Space Marines, right? As I say, I think for us they're a really important faction for what kind of we want to tell in our story of this universe.
They're the main faction, basically.
They're not like a traditional Total War faction in a lot of ways. They are a very limited force, and so it's going to be a really fun gameplay style. If you are these kind of superhuman troops, but I guess your kind of weakness is you're limited in number, right? Like, you can take on any foe on those battlefields.
More armor,
You've also got to make sure you're kind of measuring your losses, right? Because you're not building infrastructure, right? You're not kind of able to build new constructions in the same way as maybe the other factions. So you are really reliant on these troops that you've brought in to fight the battle, but it's also really fun to fight the battle as them.
And what about Astra Militarum? They are quite different.
Then it's going to be like a Zerg force, aren't they? Just like the Orcs.
A traditional, I like to call it a Total War faction, you know, massed ranks of infantry lines and artillery.
Yeah.
If you want the more, that more Total War experience when you play this game, I'd pick up the Astra Militarum. They're definitely hitting that right on their head.
Basically, I think the Astra Militarum and most of the Orcs, it's going to be like Empire Total War. Kind of. With like artillery, you know, guns, tanks. Yes, I know there's not tanks in Empire Total War, but do you know what I mean? It's got to... That's what they sound like to me. Yeah. Like the Space Marines, from what he was saying there, I wouldn't be surprised if you can like have like a max army of maybe like 100 Space Marines. Like, there's no way you're going to get an entire chapter deploying down, unless that is like a campaign where you make your own chapter and the entire chapter's there, and then you have like unlimited access, but if the main story is like Ultramarines and it's the third company, you've got 100 Space Marines. That's about that. That's that, boys. Do you know what I mean? So, mate, it's going to be really interesting to see how they do Marines. Really interesting. Again, as he said, the guy in the middle literally said, if you want a more, if you want like the Total War experience that you're used to, Guard.
How is it that they're emulating that traditional Total War experience?
Well, as I said, it's more about building up resources, supply, building infrastructure to recruit an army in what you would expect most Total War games to have as a core.
Yeah.
With some of the other factions, we're moving away from that and trying very asymmetrical ideas that you progress through the game in slightly different ways. Whereas with the Aston Militarum, they are the humans throughout the galaxy.
JB's about to have an aneurysm.
It's more grounded in what we would say Total War has been as a staple for so many years. So to me, that's my meat and drink.
And what about Eldari and Orcs?
The Eldari have been really interesting for us, right? Like, as I said, I think sometimes a faction comes along and they're so unique that you kind of have to do them justice, right? Like, they are a dying race due to a kind of major cataclysm that has occurred to them many, many kind of eons ago. So they are kind of trying to prevent these cataclysms occurring, kind of more tragedy that could befall kind of humanity or any other race in the galaxy. They're not a faction that will fight
Avatar of Cain?
Utilising your webway gates as a kind of traversal mechanism to move quickly from place to place.
Very nice.
Including moving to your craft world, a kind of off-map setup piece, which is actually where you're recruiting all your units. And you're setting up your various shrines, which allow you to access your more elite troops going through. So there's this really interesting gameplay here that, once again, a bit like the Space Marines, you're quite limited in number. Your troops are not a kind of infinite resource that you can use. You're actually kind of having to, once again, use them carefully because they're all a glass cannon. Every soul lost is a soul not returned, right? So you have to really pick your fights and kind of challenge your enemies.
And then there are orcs. And then there are orcs.
It is the orcs. But Shrines and Relics, it does sound cool.
They're much less about that sort of like weird, sneaky stuff like hiding. They're much more upfront about building up a huge mass of boys and basically smashing through the solar system, through the galaxy.
I think the orcs going to be the best to play.
Right? When that comes to the campaign,
this.
there are actually some sort of parallels with the Aston Militarum, for example, in that there are loads of them. They are building up resources, but they are much more about building up momentum and continuing to fight and continuing to Stompers with the lads.
Stompers, that was pretty cool.
Continuing to fight and continuing to push
forward
the front line.
I wonder if they actually talk about the space combat in this game,
and start fighting
or if there's going to be any space combat.
It's about taking him and his lads and basically smashing along and keeping that momentum up and making sure you've always got something interesting to sink a chopper into.
Dave likes the orcs.
I love orcs.
Yeah. This guy is a proper orc fan. I just want a war.
You've grown the scale for what we're fighting for from provinces to planets. How are you going to capture both the small details of planetary warfare and obviously the wider conflict?
So it kind of starts with you're fighting on a planet, right? You're fighting in a battle, a kind of real-time experience. You've got thousands of troops kind of charging across the surface of a hive world, right? Kind of fighting in the streets of a hive city, firing powerful bombardments kind of at one another, either from orbit or from a field, right? And you're kind of fighting to take that hive city, maybe back for the Imperium in some manner.
Right.
Zooming out a bit further than that, that was a battle on a planet, right? So once you complete that battle, you're now on the planet. You captured the region. Well done. The hive city, it's now yours. Because you've taken that hive city, you now have access to further resources and large populations of it, like billions of people are living in these hive cities. That affects your kind of campaign across that planet, right? Because you've captured that hive city, you've now got a staging point to advance across the other regions of the planet, each of which themselves would be a different kind of battle type.
Okay.
Kind of zooming up further to that, you then have your kind of fleets around the planet, right? Like your fleets are able to drop forces to where they need to be into kind of certain key regions. They're able to support with, as I say, off-map bombardments, both in campaign and in battle. But then they're also able to kind of just ferry your troops. They are transports as well as that. And obviously, that's because you're not fighting on one planet. You're fighting on many planets as you go.
Industrial,
you're traveling your forces kind of to many different front lines, many different battlefields, trying to take control.
Mate, that's pretty cool. Mate, I actually like what he's saying, right? I actually like what he's saying. So it's like a region, and then you capture that region, and then, but there's other regions to capture on the planet. And let's say you capture that planet, that adds more resources, but that's just one planet then, and there's other planets. And that is what, like a system, I guess? Then you scroll back and there's more systems? That's what I was hoping for. My biggest fear of this game is that it would be like on one planet, like Dark Crusade. I didn't want that. I want it to be like as big as potentially possible. And that's what it's sounding like right now. And the concept art looks pretty cool as well, for like agri-worlds, hive worlds, and all that stuff. The Orcs made their version of the Phalanx there. Do you know what? That's what I was thinking as. That's what it looked like. Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Control of this overall planetary system. So your fleets are kind of your key motivator for that. And obviously, it's not just traveling planet to planet, right? Like there are anomalies, there are things to do in the space between as well. So there's a strategy layer that you're kind of having
space
to
hulks and stuff,
with.
I guess, yeah.
You didn't stop there. Like, even better than that. Like, we are now offering you kind of a further context, right? Like, much like campaigns give a context to your battle, right? Capturing that hive city changed the way that you play. We are now saying that actually your campaign matters. The result of this campaign will change the kind of future of the galaxy itself, because we've moved up to this other layer where you're fighting in what we call a crusade theatre, which is a kind of area of the galaxy which is seen as a kind of hot point for conflict, with factions fighting one another.
I want to talk about this a little bit more.
In these key areas, you are fighting in systems. You're also sometimes just fighting pivotal battles as well. And that's the idea behind it, is you now have a context for it. It's not just a campaign and it's a one-and-done thing and you had great fun and it's over. It's a campaign, you had great fun, look what it's done to your next steps. What campaigns trigger from that? What battles come from it? How do you advance your faction after that, so when you go into the next campaign, maybe you are more prepared or even more powerful than you were previously?
So the scars of your
Again, mate, that sounds very, very interesting. One thing I did hear, and I don't know how true this is, by the way, right? But one thing I did hear is that what they want to try and do is to do community-led events. So if, let's say you're playing Orcs, right? There's like going to be events in the game where the Orcs push this planet, but the Space Marine players, they're pushing the planet as well. And whoever like gets the most wins out of it, that affects certain things as well. I'm not sure how that would work in the grander scale of things, like how they can connect all that. But if that rumor does turn out to be true, I think that's a great way to get like community involvement and like to get factions representing each other. I think that'd be really, really cool. That would be very, very awesome. Because I'd be like, come on, Space Marines, let's go, brothers. And they'd be like an orc, like, oh, no, come on. And be like, Perch Rabo sitting in the corner crying, oh, no, we can't win anything. You know, that kind of thing. Again, it sounds amazing, but it's just a rumor at this point. But what he's saying, like the entire system, like it affects it and stuff, that sounds very Helldivers 2-esque to me. I'm not sure about you, where like you take one planet, that means it has a knock-on effect then for the other planet kind of thing. So yeah.
Campaigns and your battles, they're all going to be shown on that Crusade Theatre level. But what's the worst thing you could do to a planet?
Exterminate us.
You can destroy planets entirely. So
pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Unlike previous games as well, we obviously
just another Tuesday in the Imperium.
There was always an opportunity to rebuild, but in the world of kind of Total War Warhammer 40,000, we are actually letting you just blow up and destroy a planet. It is a permanent action. There's no backseas, there's no takebacks. But also remember, it's not something that can be done frivolously. Right? Like blowing up a planet by the Imperium is something requiring multiple layers of authorization. They would much rather throw away 1 billion human souls to reclaim a world than destroy it. However, there are extreme circumstances, and we do let you push
Chaos tape.
Fantastic.
Purge it all.
Well, assuming we have anywhere to fight, I have a very big question for you. There's been a lot of speculation about it. You know, it's such an integral part of Total War, and fans have gone back and forth on how we'd do it, how we wouldn't do it. Battles. How did you approach designing battles in Total War Warhammer 40,000?
Oh, there we go. That is a massive question, and I think with anything of this scale, like the first thing that you do is you go to the source material, right? You go straight into the codexes and you go into the tabletop and you play it and you really feel it and you get to know all of the factions, all the potential factions and the different combinations of things that can happen. You look at all the toys and the fun stuff that you can do there, and then you start to think, well, how can we sort of
models
transpose that to Total War?
Nice
right?
diorama.
And obviously scale is a big thing for us, so we thought, well, we need to make sure we have ways to bring in all sorts of stuff, make sure that you can keep to sort of supplying the battlefield with your your powerful units. So something that came as a real sort of natural occurrence was we have to have reinforcement play a really big part in what battles are. Again, not only for the scale, but also to create that intrinsic link between the campaign. Okay. So now when we're playing, for example, Space Marines, who you've got sat on your fleet really, really matters, right? Because those are the people that are going to be able to come in via drop pod. They're going to be able to slam into the battlefield. We're going to talk about destruction. They can knock down buildings, right? They can destroy elements of the battlefield, change the battlefield, and they can start killing things where you need them to be, right? So the Space Marines can become all about that sort of like, Swiss Army knife approach to battle, right?
And this is a fundamental part of the tabletop game.
Absolutely.
All the factions, it's those reinforcements are a key part of that.
So it sounded like with Space Marines, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you'll deploy your armor, but there also has got to be reinforcements. So, if you haven't got a lot of troops, you can start bringing stuff down to reinforce yourself, basically. That's what it sounds like to me. And it's very, very important what you have up in the atmosphere kind of thing. Yeah.
Flavour, and it has to be therefore part of the Total War experience.
I think it's going to be very hard for them to balance.
So when you've got your units that you have,
I think there's going to be a lot of balance issues.
They can sometimes now show up where you need them to if you sort of sequester them
my
away
first
in
initial
the right
take.
places. And we have different
issues.
methods for each faction. Some are much more traditional. The Guard have less ways of interjecting directly into the battlefield. They might have to throw wave after wave of their own men up the battlefield in order to arrive in time to make sure that they get there before the last unit that is probably now flagging might be running away. So to replace them in time to keep them hold that line. You have the Orcs in a similar fashion. They do have some incredible teleportation technology. You wouldn't believe it, but they do. So they can really zap things into the battlefield and do some pretty wild things there too. And then, of course, you have the Eldari with their webway gates and things like that. So the ability to sort of pop up in unexpected places. All of these methods allow you to bring your toys to the table where you need them, right? And that was a really, really big part of making sure we captured this and sort of evolved the gameplay. I think a lot of people look at this setting and they kind of go, wow, that's really futuristic. And they're right, it feels very futuristic. But a core realization that we had was that it's not a realization we only had, this is it. It is science fantasy, right? So there is so much fantasy wrapped into it. And when you think about the conflicts that go on, yes, there is cover. Yes, there's a lot of ranged combat going on, but there's also like loads of punching, like so much punching, like loads and loads of crumping that goes on. Like you really have a lot of melee going on in these battles. There are lots of forces will sort of mass up and crash into one another. Practically every unit has some sort of combination of a thing that they can shoot you with and a thing that they can punch you with, right? Like in some cases, literally power fists, right? So there are like so many very familiar elements actually to it when you start to see and realize that there's a lot of sort of like fantasy drives in there, and so those massed armies still happen. There will be massive front lines crashing against one another. So yeah, there's a
that sounds good.
Really
the last thing I want is to be like
the way you fight, even within a faction.
It's
so
all
much
range.
more connected
Do you know what I mean?
to that campaign experience.
Because as someone who plays 40k, I want it to be like
set up for the battle, and that's key. It's fundamental to the core design as well. But also going back to, understanding that setting and the Warhammer 40,000 universe to that degree, it really brings out that in the game itself as well. So having a team that's just so ingrained in this for so many years, like Dave, and it really helps bring out those details.
Pause it, zoom in, boys. Can we see anything? Hang on, maybe we've got a dreadnought here. Right, I need everyone to start zooming in on this code. I want everyone to start breaking down the code. We're going to find the line in the code, just like we did with Dawn of War 4, okay? That's the plan, gentlemen. Zoom in.
It's just such a fundamental Total War franchise pillar is authenticity, and you can just see it coming out in this game in all the details as well as the bigger picture.
I need to zoom in on this stuff.
I think that's key to what we need to do to bring that out in the game.
Play it back,
and again, on that connection level, we really want to make sure that we capture, again, the scale of these conflicts. So when we're fighting these battles, they're not just like one battle happening in an isolated pocket. You are the flashpoint. You are the most important force force fighting in the most important place that will decide the event on effectively that continent, right? But there is war everywhere, all across the planet's surface, right? So you really are that flashpoint. When you show up to battles, you often will have a purpose. There are things that you are trying to achieve. It might be like, securing an orbital cannon, for example, to stop people from using it. But also you'll be joining and fighting against forces that are already present on the battlefield. It is not uncommon that you'll rock up as Space Marines and find that there are a bunch of Astra Militarum about to be overwhelmed by a bunch of sneaky Eldari. Or it might be that you show up as orcs and find that there's loads of really great Astra Militarum to beat the hell out of, right? So it's that kind of level of trying to, again, capture that scale and make sure we really are doing justice to the sheer volume of stuff. Different units that are going to show up in this game.
So we've spoken a lot about Total War Warhammer 40,000, but what is it that really the Total War's bringing here? What is it that our game is doing differently to other games in the 40,000 universe?
Well, okay, I think the main thing here for us is scale. It's a fundamental Total War franchise pillar, for starters, but we've taken it so much further with this game. I mean, you literally hear the stuff Dave's talking about. You've got units and single entities on a battlefield, down there on the ground, and right from there, and the scale of the battles up to the scale of a region of a planet, to multiple planets in a system, to multiple systems across an entire galaxy.
Yeah, okay, I get the scale of that. That sounds
huge,
great.
Even for Total War scale. And it's like, we are...
I get the scale in terms of the map scale, but what about the scale in terms of the actual battle that you're fighting in? Is that going to be like the biggest we've ever seen? Do you know what I mean? Or is it going to be different? Yeah. I don't understand. Is this game always online? I don't think so, dude. Again, mate, they haven't mentioned that at all yet. I'm with you. I'm watching this at the same time as you. Hopefully they go into it a little bit more. But again, what they're talking about now is like how big the scale is in terms of, well, this guy's talking about the map. Like you're in a region, you zoom out, you're on a planet, you zoom out, you're in a sector, you zoom out, you're in like a space region. You zoom out, probably that space region, and you're in like a segmentum kind of thing, probably. Do you know what I mean? Maybe there's multiple segmentums to conquer and stuff like that. Yeah. These other battles, is it other players or is it just computers? No, mate, this is like offline. Yeah, this is not PvP. As far as I'm aware, they haven't mentioned anything PvP yet.
Over the next years, going to develop this out and all the content and everything that fills up that galaxy. But the gameplay and the decisions you make and the way you interact with the game is literally right from down there all the way across the galaxy.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
they haven't talked about naval combat yet, mate. No.
Of your kind of faction, its units, its style, its even down to its mechanics, right? You're creating your faction, right? You're making something unique and personal to you, obviously attached to, hopefully. But I think that adds so much to us. Like I haven't seen anyone else really kind of going to quite the depths that we do. Like you can have different pattern types, you can have kind of different left and right colour, you can set your pauldron. Or like kind of your knee. Sorry, pauldron's up there.
You can say pauldrons.
You can set your kneecap to a different colour. You can have different decals around your faction. If you want to be a kind of like...
Decals? Decals, come on now. Decals? Does anyone else call them decals? Schmeckles? Decals? Mate, that sounds, mate, it sounds like they're going fully in the customization then, which is absolutely beautiful, because that means I can make my own chapters in the game and stuff like that. Yeah, mate, that's what I want. I want customization. I want the rule of cool. That's what Warhammer is. For those people who play the meta, you play the meta. For me, it's all about the rule of cool. It's making your guys look as amazing as possible. So hopefully they actually hit the nail on the head with this one.
You know, kind of an Ultramarines fanboy and have kind of like the sigil of Ultramar everywhere. You can do that. It's really fun. Right? And we've generally found anyone who's playing it spends a lot of time on that bit, right? Because you really want to make your own faction and feel that. And it honestly is great. It really, really takes me back a long way.
Finally, cool, of everything we spoke about today, what are you the most excited about for our players to experience?
I think for me it is the customization. I know I've literally just mentioned it, but it keeps coming back as this thing, right? Like everything comes back to this fact that I think for the first time, I've made my faction, right? Like, they're uniquely mine. No one else will have a faction anything like mine, right? Okay, yeah, there'll still be Space Marines, but they're my chapter, right? Like, this is my Force Commander who I've kind of personalized. Like, I'm controlling all that. If I want to have a Space Marine faction that's more about kind of fire mechanics, like I want flamethrowers and melters everywhere, I can make that. I can make a faction that's leaning into that. And that is my kind of way
really
of
interesting.
playing,
So
right?
does that confirm the rumor of the make your own chapter master
kind of letting
guy?
you make your own kind of gameplay, essentially, right? Like, here are the problems, here are the challenges that the universe is throwing at you by battles and campaigns and flashpoints, but how do you solve that? How do you build the kind of ultimate faction to kind of deal with any problem that could be thrown at you? I think it's going to give so many kind of hours, maybe even years, hopefully, of like entertainment, of just making cool factions, hopefully sharing it with your friends and stuff like that as well, right? Like, and always comparing your kind of faction designs with one another. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, okay, mate. That's got me quite excited as a Space Marine player. I kind of just want to do a video breaking that down.
It's very different now with Total War, the Crusade Theatre concept, where, you know, we know how long a campaign can go on, how engaged you can be for hundreds of hours. I've done it myself for years, right? And then you go, great, that was a campaign. I invested so much time and effort. Now I'll start. It's very replayable. I'll start another one as a different faction. Great. But now you play that campaign, and that's another part of that jigsaw of your own internal narrative feeding onto a higher layer that moves gradually across the whole sector and then the whole galaxy. To me, it's that whole campaign experience just being a part of your journey.
This last guy's just going to shout orcs.
To me, that's so fundamentally new, and it just means it's just such a long-term experience beyond even our massive long campaigns for previous years. So that's the bit for me that stands out, I think. Dave?
It's kind
orcs, maybe?
Probably something to do with orcs.
I was going to say,
I think it's like a litany of firsts, right? It's like, again, talking about the Lance Strike, it's the first time that you drag a Lance Strike across the battlefield, and the second time, and the third time when you use it to obliterate buildings, to drag across units. That sort of satisfaction is so super tangible.
Can you zoom in out mid-battle into a different battle?
You shoot a tank,
it's that
right,
kind
and
of thing,
you see it veer off, hit a building, and again cause a bit more destruction, cause a bit more chaos. It's the first time that you use like a Psyker's ability, right, and sort of like blast apart an opponent, or see orcs teleporting in from somewhere unexpected. A weird boy going pew and jumping a bunch of boys right up in your face, or vice versa, right? And there's all those moments are in there, and I think there's so much love and care for the source material in there, and I think there's a lot of little bits that people find and kind of go, wow, this is there's some good stuff.
Mate, it's sounding.
And that concludes Total War Warhammer 40,000 Developer Roundtable. Big thank you to our developers, our guests today. And then we're going to be back later in 2026, and we will bring you more content. We're going to bring you battles. We're going to bring you campaign. And that's not all. We're going to go into deep dives. We're going to do blogs, videos, and all sorts of Q&As. So we will see you there.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for tuning in, and another massive thank you from everyone here at the Total War Warhammer 40,000 team. We'll see you next time.
Okay, that was interesting, boys. I wish they showed off more footage, I'll be honest with you. It was nice to hear some of the details, but most of that detail they went through then, we already knew. With the interviews that they already put out with game magazine companies and stuff like that. I was hoping to see more footage. I was hoping to see more customization. We kind of did with the concept art and stuff, which was nice. I think the big thing for me was right at the end with that guy when he talked about Space Marines. And if you want to do a flame and melter themed, you can invest into that, which means maybe if you want to go full on melee, thunder hammers, power swords, and the more buffed and stuff. It seems like that's the kind of thing they're doing with that faction. Probably they'll do it with the other factions as well. But Space Marines, you can go really any direction. I pray this is more unique than Total War 3. I didn't really play Total War 3 that much, so I can't really comment on that at this moment in time, to be fair with you. Of course, look at my channel. I'm 40k, so I wasn't really into the fantasy stuff. But there's a lot of things that people who've been played fantasy have been telling me about CA and the way they do things. Again, one of the big things in that was they said they want to expand the universe out and fill it up. You know what that means, don't you? That means that's going to be expansions, DLCs, whatever you want to call it. And like I've been saying, this game is there's so much content you can add with a 40k product. Because if you say Space Marines, then you go into the Space Marines, you've got chapters. Let me start. You've got the first founding chapters, the Imperial Fist, the Raven Guard, the Ultramarines, the Salamanders, the White Scars, etc., 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 right? And then on top of that, You've got like the second founding, the third founding chapters, which are really popular. So you've got like Black Templars, Crimson Fist, part of just the Sons of Dawn gene lineage. You've got potential content within content, and that's just Marines. Guard, you've got multiple Guard regiments. Cadians, you've got multiple Cadian regiments of all different styles, different themes, and stuff like that, right? Eldar, Craft Worlds, Orcs, Clans, Eldar, right? There's so much. There's so much. So this is what I mean, right? This game, I personally think, is going to become their flagship product. I've been saying this for a long time. I've been saying this ever since it's been announced that the hype about this already, and some people disagree, which is fine. You know, I'm not trying to stack an argument or anything, but I think they're going to look at this as like, okay, this can become our main coin purse, and that worries me a bit, because at the end of the day, you know, DLC is costly, and there's a lot of content that can be considered DLC in this game, and that does worry me. Dawn of War 4 forgotten already? No, mate. I'm not. Mate, people keep trying to make an argument about Dawn of... I actually want to do a video dedicated to this. Are you going to be playing Dawn of War 4 or Total War 40k, Valrak? What do you think's better, Valrak? Dawn of War 4 or Total War 40k? I don't care. Just as long as both games are good. To be fair, they're two completely different games, which some people can't get their head around. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I just want good 40k content. I want to eat good. You can see I've already been eating good. But yeah, I'm not like, oh yeah, I want Total War 40k to be better than Dawn of War 4. I don't want any of that. I just want both games to be good, and I want us to get fun out of those products. That's what I want. Right, on that note, I'm going to jump off the stream now. This was literally just a quick stream just to go through that. It's going to be on the channel so people can watch along and stuff like that. AJ, mate, thanks for the donation at the end. Are you worried or excited or both about CA will go with the launcher game? Yes, I'm excited and worried. Again, I'm not really a big Total War player. Yes, I played like Rome back in the day, Medieval 2 and stuff. We all did that when we were kids. But I haven't really been like, you know, there all the time. But I've heard some of the stories about, you know, Creative Assembler, how they go around with their DLC, you know, the bugs in the game, the balancing issues and stuff like that. I've heard that. I haven't really been in like the trenches that you guys are. So at this moment in time, I'm just taking what you're saying, because you're the guys who have been there. And some of the stories that I'm hearing is concerning. I just hope they fixed all that for Total War 40k. I doubt a lot of things are going to be fixed, but hopefully they fix some things. Yeah, go back, rewatch it, whatever you want to do. It's going to be on my channel right now. I'll be back in a couple of hours, boys, to do the proper stream tonight. So I'll see you all then. Thanks for coming. Have a great evening if I don't see you. Have a great night if I don't see you. Have a great week if I don't see you. Much love, Emperor bless, and bye-bye. Bye.